Executive session?
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. And on behalf of Trustee Russ Jackson, we're going to do the most important thing that we will do tonight right now, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. We have a public hearing tonight, so I will open the public hearing for case Anderson 5-2014 Sim Manor. Paul, you're on.
Just get the computer fired up. As Trustee Girth stated, tonight we have a public hearing for a substantial modification for 1348 Pebble Court. This is case 5-2014, and the applicant is Mr. Richard Pansiera, who is representing Studio for Architecture on behalf of Sim Manor, Inc., who is the property owner. The current zoning for the property is DD, which is multiple family, planned multiple family. And again, the request is a substantial modification to the final development plan, which was originally approved in 1967. The proposal is to convert the existing facility as a combination of efficiency apartments and one-bedroom apartments for a total of 144 units combined. And the proposal is to convert all of the efficiencies to one-bedroom apartments, still maintaining that 144-unit density. However, in order to do the conversion, an addition would be required. A little bit of the history, as you saw there, the original rezoning took place in 1967, and that is when the final development plan was approved for the residents. Subsequent, the Stonegate development, which is north of Sim Manor, there were modifications and development of Sim Manor, in Stonegate in phases. So there have been modifications to this development plan, but we chose to give this a new case number since it is somewhat a standalone property under separate ownership. This is the existing zoning map on the board in front of you. The site is outlined in red. This is Pebble Court, which is a cul-de-sac that dead ends into the site in question. This is DD multifamily, orange. The yellow is a single-family zoning district B. These are the former township fields, the township maintenance facility, the salt dome, just to get you oriented. Beachmont is off of the slide, and this is the back of the Fitworks building, which is zoned retail. This is the future land use map of our comprehensive plan. The area in question, again, is identified for future land use of multifamily. The site to the south, immediately south, is identified for general mixed use. And the blue area, again, the township-owned property, is identified for institutional type uses. This is the existing facility, Sim Manor. You come in off of Pebble Court. And again, these are a mixture of apartment buildings and condominiums that lead out to Nagel, which is the access. This is a portion of the Stonegate development, which has remained as open space. As far as the history, I declined to say the Regional Planning Commission did hear this on December the 14th. 2014, which recommended approval with conditions to the Zoning Commission, who heard it on December the 15th, and they also recommended approval with conditions. So again, to get you oriented, the cul-de-sac coming in the main drive. This is the existing facility. The proposal is to add 34 units on a separate wing, which would be tied to the main structure via a hallway, a covered hallway. With the change in elevation, it's difficult to actually, this was the best way to add the building, the units. The efficiency units would be converted to one-bedroom apartments. There is a proposal for addition of parking in this area, this general area of the site, as well as additional parking on this area of the site. There is a storm line or storm drain that runs currently underneath where the proposed addition is going, and this is proposed to be rerouted around the addition and additional parking here. This is the connection to the township property, which is proposed to remain, and that was a condition of the original approval in 1967. As far as the agency reports, well, we can look at the site photos. This is looking at the site looking to the south off of Pebble. This is looking generally in the direction south again of where the addition would go. Looking back toward Pebble, this is an area that's proposed for parking, and this is the area proposed for the addition. Looking into the wooded area, portion of this would be cleared to make room for the addition. This is looking in the area proposed for additional parking. As you can see on the landscape or on the plan that was submitted in your packet, most of the trees are proposed to be saved. There are a couple of trees that would be removed, but keep the other trees. And there already is an existing buffer along this parking area. This is looking at the main entrance of the facility, which is currently over in the corner as part of the renovations that would be relocated to the center of the center building of the U. This is an area that's used for gardening currently, but this would be converted to parking, and the salt dome is in the foreground. So back to the site in question. The agency reports, all the agencies spoke positive of the development. The Fire and Rescue brought up concerns that the addition was not easily accessible, and they have been in communication with Fire and Rescue. I think this can be resolved. All the other agencies had no concerns, just your general statements. As far as zoning compliance, there are 4 areas that are not in compliance with the zoning resolution that they are requesting variances. The first is the setback. This is a residential zoning line, and the zoning requires a 10-foot setback from the parking lot to the residential zoning line. This was a non-conforming lot, and they're proposing to maintain the existing setback, and as you could see, there is a buffer already in place. As far as density, the zoning resolution requires that for one-bedroom units, a maximum of 2,000 square feet of land area be made available, and that would stipulate a maximum of 114 units, one-bedroom units, and the applicant's proposing 140, which would reduce that to a lot area of 1,593 square feet per unit. The third item is that drive aisles be a minimum of 24 feet wide. In this particular area, there is not 24 feet wide. However, they are maintaining the existing drive aisle, which is non-conforming. And then the last item is that the current dumpsters are not in compliance with current codes. And then, I'm sorry, the fifth item is the number of parking spaces. They are requesting a total of 122 spaces, where 144 are required. The approving resolution back in 1967, again, is on the board, and this is compliant with the approving resolution except for the fact of the 144 units that are single bedroom and does not meet the total square footage of the area of the land. The other findings that we look at when we look at a substantial modification are adopted plans. This is consistent with our trails plan. It shows pedestrian, it currently has pedestrian accessibility to the south and to the north. As far as the Anderson comprehensive plan, we identified several areas where it is consistent with that, including the future land use designation. And finally, with staff's recommendations, staff recommends approval of the modification for the following reasons. And these conditions, staff, along with regional planning and the zoning commission, recommend approval with the following conditions. Consistency with the design guidelines. Right-of-way shall be dedicated along Beachmont Avenue. The site does have a panhandle out to Beachmont Avenue, and the county regional planning recommended that additional right-of-way be dedicated consistent with the county thoroughfare plan. Again, dumpsters shall be completely enclosed with materials matching the addition. Parking areas be in compliance except for the requested variances. The existing access drive into the township property be maintained with that through connection, which was a part of the original condition in 1967. These are the variances that we spoke of earlier that they are requesting, where the site is not in compliant with the zoning resolution. And again, recommendation of approval of the variances for the following reasons. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
This is a public hearing, so anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this project, or opposed, but we'll start with those that favor it. Please come on up. Now's your chance.
Honorable Trustees, I'm Rick Pansier with Studio for Architecture, architect of record for the project. Paul's done as good a job as I could do explaining what's going on, so I really don't have too much more to add, but I'm available to answer any questions that would come up. The one thing I would like to point out regarding the parking is the facility is currently the 144 units. We're maintaining the 144 units, but the awkward situation here is that when we reduce the space of the efficiencies in the existing building and replace those with one bedrooms, they obviously take more physical space. That's the reason we're putting on the addition. So while it is an addition of 34 units, it's maintaining the 144 throughout. So we're not really requesting any increase in number of units. And the facility to date has been designed with 81 parking spaces, which is pretty much right at the max for the usage of the residents and visitors to the facility. And we're taking this opportunity to try to bump that up in spaces where we can, just to make a little bit more overflow parking. So just wanted to be clear, we are actually going from 81 up to 122, and I recognize that's below the 144 that would normally be required, but as always, we just don't really recommend putting in more paved area than is necessary, and we felt that was kind of a good balance for the site to get us to what we really feel is necessary for this type of facility. As Paul stated, you've got residents that don't drive cars, they're relying on other transportation, so it's really not a big issue there. And other than that, just so that everybody is aware, we are intending, as well as providing the new addition for the 34 units that it takes to make up the difference between efficiencies and ones, our intention is to totally rehab the interior of the existing 3 wings as well. So those would all be upgraded, new interior materials, carpet, paint, adding a sprinkler system to the building, which the fire department is very much in favor of. Sure. And any other, upgrades that have really, I guess, over time have become more obvious for a senior facility, because the building initially was built in 1970, so it kind of has some antiquated design elements to it. One primary one is, and it's not really apparent from this site plan, but each of those wings are actually 4.5 feet in difference in height as you move around. So to the northwest, that wing is the lowest. When you get in the center, you're up 4.5 feet, and when you get to the southeast, you're actually up another 4.5 feet. So it's an awkward situation for seniors, because you've got a half a level of flights between them. So we are intending to try to also remedy that situation in 2 manners. One, add a second elevator to suffice to make the transition work easier from each location of the building, as well as when we redo the main entrance to the building, we would be adding a handicap accessible ramp that would take you into the center part of the building, which gets you at mid-level between everything and makes just circulation throughout the building much more feasible. So as I say, I'm available any questions, but that's really all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? In favor or opposed? Russ, any questions? Okay, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing for case Anderson 5-2014 Sim Manor. And consider a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 15-0115, Case 5-2014, Anderson, 1348 Pebble Court.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Did we do that right?
I think we did. Yes.
Okay.
This is how we usually do it.
Thank you. Paul, thanks for all the information you put together. We have some presentations and recognitions this evening.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good evening. We do have a few. The first entails citizen committees, and you'll recall last month the board appointed approximately 85 residents to our citizen committees, and we recognize those members for their service during 2014. In reading that list, you'll notice there were a few names that were probably conspicuously absent from that. These are folks that have been with us for a very long time, and this is the time each January that we take a moment to thank those individuals for their service. I believe of those, I think just one is here this evening, Rick Oberschmidt. So I would like to, I think there's anyone, no, Rick's probably the only one here, but I'll read the other ones as well. Rick, why don't you come on up, please, if you would, and Mr. Girth, I think, here has a certificate for you. Rick has served for quite a long time as a citizen volunteer for the community. He began on the Township's Development Advisory Committee in 2000, served on the Township's Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate from 2001 through 2006, and as a regular member from 2007 to 2014. So if you're counting, that's 15 years of service. Probably sitting there tonight on the other side of a zoning case was probably very odd for you, but interesting indeed. But we very much thank you for your service and for the many, many hours that you gave to our community over that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's always great to have such professional staff and good people on the committees. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Now we'll go ahead just quickly and recognize those other individuals. One of Rick's colleagues, Rob Carr, who actually was on the Zoning Commission, from 2006, and the Board of Zoning Appeals member from 2007 through 2014. We also had Brian Sanders, who was on our Betterment Beautification Committee and was an alternate on the BZA, one of Rick's colleagues. Brian Graham and Greg Kaiser, who were on the Economic Development Committee from 2011 to 2014. Jennifer Flinchpaugh was the Betterment Beautification Committee member during 2012 and the Street Tree member from 2012 to 2014. And lastly, Joyce Nelson. Joyce, like Rick, was a long-standing member of our Betterment Beautification Committee. She served 10 years on the committee and also was on our Street Tree Committee for 7 years. So we very much thank all those individuals for their time and energies to the township.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. The citizens committees are really impressive groups, so thank you. Corporal Boyman, did you want to recognize some folks as well?
I can do it now, or if you got something else.
No, yeah, let's do it now.
Good evening. For those of you that may not be aware, we've had two firsts in the history of the Sheriff's Office here in Anderson Township. One was our Sheriff's Citizens Academy. That was back in 2007, the first in the history of the Sheriff's Office. The second was our Sheriff's Citizens Patrol, which is another first for the Sheriff's Office. And we have no other Citizens Patrol but here in Anderson. No other one exists in any other patrol district. With that being said, I'd like to go ahead and read a brief statement concerning three of our residents who are members of our Citizens Patrol. I'd like to introduce Harry Rapine, Fred Singy, and Roger Wagner. Harry is a 46-year resident. He's been a member of Citizens Patrol since 2007. Fred is a 28-year resident of the township and a member since 2012, and Roger is a 27-year resident and also a member since 2007. It is with high regard in recognizing the efforts of 3 township residents who have given back to the community by volunteering their time with the Sheriff's Office in Anderson Township. 7 years ago, Harry and Roger started this association by attending the very first Sheriff's Citizens Academy here in Anderson. Fred attended the second academy in 2012. After graduating from these academies, all 3 of them made the commitment to become members of the Sheriff's Citizens Patrol and have been active to this day. While they all work together as team coordinators regarding all aspects of Citizens Patrol, it is only right to recognize some of their individual efforts and assignments. Harry's responsibility is ongoing maintenance and upkeep of our patrol vehicle and the assigned equipment. He conducts monthly vehicle maintenance checks and coordinates service with garage personnel at headquarters, in addition to providing vehicle training to members, and he also coordinates large-scale efforts to distribute crime prevention materials to township neighborhoods. Some of our members find a yearly event that they like to associate themselves with, and they volunteer their time. What comes to mind with Harry is he drives the car in the annual Independence Day Parade. He's active with the Muscular Dystrophy Association's lockup event and the yearly Fall Fest in the Salem Business District. Rogers is the main coordinator of the program and its 20 members. He organizes all monthly meetings and agendas, is very instrumental in getting members to commit to needed projects. Not only will Roger rally the troops, but he has developed programs that will promote this program and the township. He has developed on his own a holiday walkabout program at the town center for the past few years, and that incorporates foot patrols during the shopping season, and most recently added the addition of vehicle patrols. He also volunteers and coordinates members for the annual Independence Day Parade and trains with our Explorer program. Since Fred has come on board in 2012, he has taken a keen interest in the program and made known that he wants to be involved with its coordinated efforts, never shying away from any responsibility when asked. He has worked directly with Roger and Harry as another coordinator to serve the needs of the program. He drafts and distributes the monthly schedule and offers input and direction on the page of the township's website when it was revised. It should be noted that about 2 to 3 years ago, it was determined that this program, Citizens Patrol, needed a complete reorganization within its ranks and all aspects of community involvement. All 3 of these gentlemen were assigned this task and are directly responsible for the type of program that exists today. Without their involvement, it would not have taken place. So it is with great pleasure to recognize these township residents and also as friends also.
Thanks, guys, for your service. Appreciate it. We've come to the public forum portion of our meeting. Anyone that would like to address this board may do so. We try and keep it to 5 minutes or under. You certainly can take under if you want. So, anyone that would like to address this board, come on up and please state your name and your address.
Hi, Ruth Hardy, 7757 Anderson Oaks Drive. Just want to comment in support of ACTV. It's a valuable community resource. It informs residents about local events and covers a number of events, sports, the arts, Toastmasters, cooking, farmers market events. A good example of the value of informing that it has was the Sustainable Landscaping course and the Government 101 course that were covered over and over that we could learn from. It also covers township government affairs, the Board of Trustees, the Zoning Board, the BZA, and provides an opportunity for transparency and for citizens, for residents to exercise citizenship without necessarily attending in person. I do think ACTV could definitely improve on its program scheduling. There's often duplicative program running at the same time on 2 or 3 stations. And they could also be more predictable, have more predictable times for the replays of meetings so that we know what to expect. Personally, I'd like to explain why there was a lack of feedback from me and possibly other residents, because ACTV just disappeared off my Time Warner Cable lineup in early fall, so I missed watching the trustees meeting and didn't hear about this issue, and so therefore didn't give any feedback, so that's why it's very late. I do have a question. Would the board please explain how Time Warner Cable fees on subscriber bills are used to fund ACTV, and how the board plans to potentially reallocate these fees? And also, is Time Warner Cable essentially a monopoly outside of satellite TV in Anderson?
You're asking a question I can't answer. I don't.
What about the fees?
Vicki?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. Years ago, Time Warner Cable had a franchise agreement with Anderson Township, as it did with many communities. The state came in and decided that that franchise agreement throughout the entire state could not be in existence. They went to what they call video service provider fees. Those video service provider fees are paid by cable companies for the use of the rights-of-way in the township, because they do disturb the rights-of-ways as far as the roadways, sidewalks, that kind of thing. So it is meant to offset the cost to the jurisdiction. Those funds come to Anderson Township. Not only does Time Warner pay those funds, but also Cincinnati Bell pays those funds. There is lobbying at the federal level to eliminate the requirement for those video service provider fees. We do not know how long we will continue to get those dollars, but the dollars are strictly for the use of the rights-of-way. Years ago, the Anderson Township Board elected to utilize some of those dollars to provide community television. When the community television agreement was entered into, it was Anderson Union Community Television. Union Township was a member as well. When Union Township decided to go their own way and they started their own, Anderson Township picked up the additional cost to keep the station going. Those funds come into our general fund, and they, should the board elect to stop funding Anderson Community Television, they will be used for operating costs within the township. The township's revenue after the recession, we have gone from revenues of about $4.5 million per year down to an estimated $1.4 million. The estate tax alone, we averaged about $1.7 million a year. That is gone. Tangible personal property is gone. Deregulation is gone. The local government fund was significantly reduced. So the revenues in our general fund that we are anticipating are not sufficient to cover our operating costs. And it's for the board, and obviously it's the board's decision, but it comes down to providing basic services to the residents, continuing to provide those services. The operating fund, the general fund, supplies not only administration, fiscal, office, it provides for maintenance of all of our facilities. So those funds provides for maintenance of various things throughout the township. So it comes down to the most bang for the buck, actually, as far as viewership and how many residents actually view ACT of the 45,000 we serve versus the other services we provide.
So the money that the township was giving to ACTV, that came out of our general funds?
It came out of the video service provider fees, which go into our general fund. So yes, it did come out of our general fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vicki, can you tell everybody what we spend on ACTV every year?
Yes, we have been spending $288,000 per year. The last statistics that I had from Anderson Community Television, for example, one of the things that was brought up previously was the use of the editing bays. The editing bays were provided as a service to residents that wanted to come in and edit their own movies, that type of thing. And from what I was told from ACT, 10 people used the editing bays last year. That's in addition to the cable TV service that they provide obviously, but it's just years and years ago, I think it was 2008 or 2009, we attempted to determine viewership. We not only did a survey during Greater Anderson Days, we had a survey in our newsletter. We also ran a crawler at the bottom of the screen saying, if you're watching this television program right now, please call us and let us know. And the amount of people that responded to that, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I do recall it was well under 200. And again, we have close to 45,000 residents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As I knew I would, I did make a mistake and skipped over 3B. So should we go back and do that now, or should we continue with public forum?
It's your choice, Mr.
All right, let's go
Wirth.
back. Well, yeah, let's go back. Come on up, Paul. That'll give people to think if they want to come back up. Paul has a presentation of draft update of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Everyone sit back and enjoy.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to be doing the presenting, so it might be, it's going to be much better, is what I was going to say. So planning and zoning staff started back in July of 2014, looking at the zoning resolution and how to reformat the zoning resolution to make it more user-friendly. So an RFP was submitted, and the township selected Ratio Architects, and we've been working with Aaron Kowalski, who is present tonight, and he is going to go through, give you an update of where we stand and some of the changes that you can expect from the zoning resolution.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, trustees. Again, my name is Aaron Kowalski, and I am an urban planner with Ratio out of Indianapolis. Ratio is a full-service, multidisciplinary firm. We're located in Indianapolis, Chicago, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And so when we started down this path with Paul and his staff, we looked at several goals to achieve with this reformat of the zoning resolution. And so those goals are to take what was kind of an antiquated format and an antiquated resolution from a organizational perspective, and to create a modern and user-friendly zoning resolution. One of the major things that we undertook was to address the complicated organizational structure and numbering system. We reorganized the document to maximize user and developer friendliness. And as part of that, we included easy-to-reference diagrams and different illustrations. This document has really been designed for ease of use on the web as well as print. When finalized, it's going to be a searchable document with links contained within the PDF, so the public can bring it up on not only their home computer but their iPad and actually physically click on those links that will take you to different sections within the document. So zoning documents are kind of changing in how they're being used now. Many of our clients are using them primarily online, and this is kind of the direction we've headed with this. So up on your screen is actually a screenshot of the old format, and the first step of the process was meeting with Paul and staff to review the old document. And one very interesting thing about this document is my colleagues and I have never seen a document prior to this that was organized via the Dewey Decimal System. Portions of this ordinance date back to 1949, so we believe that's maybe a carryover from that period of time. And with that in mind, it was not user-friendly. There was a lack of tables and graphics, and honestly, it was hard to use even for staff that knew it inside and out. So the second step of the process was deciding on a layout, and we looked at a number of different layout potentials and decided upon a layout that allowed for 2 columns in each page, as well as space for illustrations. We wanted to include room for graphics, we wanted to devise a resolution for the community that would be easy to update and that staff could update. And this modern layout includes text that is continuous and linked, and a numbering system that is devised in such a way that those layout changes as well as updates could be undertaken fairly easily. So I'm going to go through a few document features here. So the final document is going to be an easy-to-use link document, as I mentioned, and if you look on the right side of the screen, there's a small red box that says zoning ordinance. So when completed, you will go to the PDF, click on that, and it'll essentially take you to where the destination is on the left side of the screen. So it's kind of a nice way for people both online as well as staff as they're looking things up to be able to click on those references and numbers and actually get to that location quite easily rather than having to flip through the document and look for it manually. It'll also be fully searchable, so you type in a word and it'll pull that up. The modern organizational structure does not use the Dewey Decimal System. We elected to use a numbered and lettered system made up of a chapter, sections, and subsequent subsections. If you look on the left hand of the screen, there's actually a screenshot on the far left of the page, and then a blow-up of a portion of text within the limited office district, which is a type of district within the community, a zoning district. And so as you can see, it's Chapter 3, subsection, or Chapter 3, Section 9, subsection A, so on and so forth, and then you have 1A and B continuing down. So it's a lot easier to understand than the Dewey Decimal System, which was a numbered system. We also worked with staff to create enhanced tables that will serve as an at-a-glance resource for both the community, developers, and staff. We worked on creating new graphics as well as updating some old graphics with thought paid to illustrating those regulations contained within. This is just an example of a two-page spread of two different zoning districts and how those standards are explained visually. Another thing that we did, which is pretty much the trend in modern ordinances, is we pulled all the definitions to the back in a section of its own. What that allows is kind of a one-stop shop for definitions. If you have a question on a word, you don't need to look back in another section to find it. Go to the back of the document. It'll be there in alphabetical order, and oftentimes, if it's one that's often questioned or that people have a lot of questions about, we've added an illustration to make that a little bit easier. So quickly, some next steps are, we actually met with staff for some time today to obtain more feedback on the draft. From that, we have identified a few additional illustrations and tables that we will complete. We're going to do a final check on formatting, activate the links, and prepare a final draft for your February trustee meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
No, very interesting, having had to go through some zoning issues, making it more user-friendly is really key, and I like so far what I see, so nice job.
Great, thank you.
Interested to see, be exciting to see the finished product.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Now, Pat.
Now we'll go back. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Miller?
Mike? Mike.
All right, moving on to trustee comments. I don't have any personal comments, but I am going to read a statement from our new state rep, Tom Brinkman, who couldn't be here tonight. He says, I was sworn in to office as state representative for the 27th House District on Monday, January 5th. The Ohio House met for its first full session last week. At the end of business, the Republican majority left for a caucus retreat at Cherry Valley Lodge that continued today, and that's why he could not be here. At the retreat, we will discuss our vision for Ohio's future and begin to put ideas into action with specific legislative proposals that address the tough issues facing Ohio for the next 2 years. Our desire is to be proactive and not just react to crisis. I believe one of the top issues we will discuss is the repeal of Common Core in its entirety. That is a huge issue for me, and I look forward to taking a leadership role in this effort. I look forward to addressing the Anderson Township Board of Trustees at the next meeting, should legislative business in Columbus not preclude my attendance. Thank you. State Representative Tom Brinkman, Republican from Ohio's 27th House District.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Tom.
Tom Brinkman.
Everybody. I don't have anything.
All right. Russ?
Russ has.
Fiscal Officer Ken Dietz.
You have nothing? Thank you.
Thank you. Law Director Margaret Comey.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, you've been up here a few times. You want to come up again? Sheriff's Office, Corporal Boyman.
Good evening again. The final thing for the Sheriff's Office this evening is a liquor license request for Carmike Cinemas Incorporated, also known as Carmike Cinemas, 7528 Beachmont Avenue, and the Sheriff's Office has no objections to this.
Since it's liquor, maybe you should take it.
Oh, okay. I move not to object to a new liquor license request for Carmike Cinemas, Inc., doing business as Carmike Cinemas, located at 7528 Beachmont Avenue.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Girth, I believe there is an individual in the audience representing Carmike, is that correct? If you'd
Oh,
like to-
great.
I'll light the cameras just here if there are any questions. We with the Manlinberg Law Firm, we represent Carmike, but it doesn't sound like there are questions.
No. Excited.
We are very excited to have you guys here, so looking forward to it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I wanted to say, too, your statistics from the Sheriff's Office on the Renew statistics, very impressive. I mean, I don't know if you want to mention anything about it, but it is a highly effective unit targeting narcotics, and the results are pretty staggering.
Good. I haven't seen those results, but thank you for that.
Yeah,
I know they do the best job they can possibly try and do.
We will be publishing them to the public in the next Insights magazine, and they're very impressive statistics.
Yeah,
So,
it's a hard job in today's day and age, so they'd be very nice to hear that.
yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
Richard, you're up. Public Works?
Good evening. I just have one item before the board tonight. As the board is aware, whenever an item is purchased with public funds, it has to be disposed of properly. Proper disposition of those items includes at least a couple of items. Number one, it can be given away as a donation or a small nominal amount to another agency within the jurisdiction. It can be scrapped or it can be sold at auction. What we have here, though, is this year we replaced our calcium tank. One of those situations where we realized that we had a tank that was at least 15 years old. No one could put a finger on exactly when it was purchased, but since it sits out in the sun and is under a lot of pressure from the liquid in the tank, thought it was a good time to replace it. We've done that, and the result is the residual tank, which would not have much street value, so to speak, at all, does have a value to the Park District, and I have been in conversation with Mr. Kushner. Mr. Kushner is actually excited about obtaining the tank, so what you have in front of you is an agreement to trade the tank off for the sum of $1.
All right.
$1.
$1.
I move to approve a resolution providing for the sale of a used calcium tank from the Public Works Department to the Anderson Township Park District.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
That's all I have.
$1.
$1.
I want to see that dollar.
Thanks, Richard. Chief Ober, Fire and Rescue.
Good evening. Two items on the agenda. First is, and we sent out the information on our replacement engine purchase. Excuse me. We have reviewed specifications, uses, made some changes and adjustments to the designated vehicle itself. Again, as we stated in a previous meeting, with another vehicle purchase, we'd like to use the Ohio State Procurement Bid Cooperative Purchasing Program to purchase this, which can save as much as $10,000 in advertisement, legal fees. And I'd like to also thank Margaret and some of her staff for her assistance, because we went through some interesting changes with this process, because there were 8 state bids for an engine and 1 on a government, the GSA contract. And we were able to work through some of those issues and allow the manufacturers to produce some of the information that we were really looking for, including the price. So with that said, we have a resolution that was drawn up for us to continue on with that. It is a replacement engine, replaces a 2000 model, and we would like to move forward with that.
I move to authorize the purchase of fire equipment pursuant to Section 505.101 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is our auction website renewal. As Richard alluded to, we have certain ways we can dispose of unneeded apparatus, equipment, and things that belong to the township. And in doing so, since 2005, we did a study under the direction of the board, and right now continues to be one of the most cost-effective ways for us to do it is to use a website where we have permission from the board to post items on there, and the general public can bid on those. And with that said, our contract is up, again, with the LightGov company, and we'd like to extend it at least another year, because it runs out in March.
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to enter into agreements with the LightGov Company of Ohio for online auction sale purposes through March 25th, 2016.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Good evening. Before I turn it over to Mr. Severs for the first item, I have some good news and some concerning news from Mr. Jackson. Obviously, he's not here this evening, and he has been communicating with me via text message. While he is elated, part of the reason he is not here is because he is celebrating the birth of a new grandchild. Unfortunately, while that grandchild is doing very well, his 22-month-old brother was admitted to the hospital last night, and he is in very serious condition. They are awaiting test results and hope to have some additional information tomorrow. But Mr. Jackson has asked for everyone's prayers to help get his grandson through this time.
Thanks, Vicki.
Mr. Severs.
Moving back to that, and our prayers certainly are with the family. We do have one item I have before the board. This involves the township's website, and as Mr. Drury provided an introduction tonight for the update to our zoning resolution to make it more user-friendly, we are trying to do the same thing with our website. We last did a major update to that probably 6 years ago or so. We're in the process, and we've been working with Systems Insight, who is our current website hosting company, to develop an update to that, to make it more user-friendly, more accessible, and also to make it more accessible for folks that try to use them on smartphones, which we estimate to be over half of our website users. With that, there's a proposal in the packet and a motion for the board's consideration that will allow us to start that process, and it is our hope that we'd be completed by the mid-spring, probably April, May timeframe. So.
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to enter into contract with Systems Insight, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $15,500 to update the Anderson Township website and expand the function of the site to include responsive mobile design.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item we have this evening returns to the discussion about Anderson Community Television. There is a limited home rule resolution before the board that would extend the existing agreement through the end of February of 2015. The board approved a one-month extension last month that allowed township staff to communicate with members of Anderson Community Television to negotiate further. And this agreement, as I stated, if it's adopted by the board, would extend through February to allow additional negotiations to occur.
I move to adopt a limited home rule resolution authorizing Township Administrator to enter into Amendment Number 2 to an agreement with Anderson Community Television and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you. The last item arises from executive session discussions. There is a motion before the board that would authorize a wage increase for the Fire and Rescue Collective Bargaining Unit. The township entered into a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the Fire and Rescue Department last year. It provided for a wage reopener in 2015 and a wage reopener in 2016. Ms. Parker and Chief Ober and I have just completed a round of mediation with the firefighters union, and we think we have arrived at something that is palatable for the township. The firefighters union president did inform me that the union body did accept the increases that are proposed. Again, there was a wage reopener proposed for next year, but the union has agreed to a 2-year increase so that we don't have to go through the negotiations again next year. And that motion is before you.
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to amend Article 30.1A and Article 30.1B of the 2014 through 2016 Anderson Township Fire and Rescue Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we have for the board this evening.
Thank you, Vicki. Our next regular monthly board meeting will be February 19th, 2015 at 6 p.m. People can call 688-8400 or Andrew Pappas' cell phone to confirm. And with that, I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thanks for coming, everybody.